Looking back, it feels unreal, like a bad dream that slowly transforms into a nightmare. At first, everything seems normal, but unsettling details creep in until you can no longer ignore them. That's how it was with Lauren and me. I never imagined I'd be the type of person to call off an engagement so close to the wedding. I believed that getting engaged was the ultimate commitment, a promise to work through doubts and challenges together. I thought I had everything figured out, but I was wrong. For 3 years, I ignored the warning signs, convincing myself that our relationship was strong and that the issues were minor things we could work out over time. I told myself love was about compromise, about letting the little things go. But her final demand forced me to face the truth I had been avoiding. Lauren and I met at a party through mutual friends. She was captivating. Her charm, intelligence, and ability to light up a room drew me in. We spent the entire evening talking, oblivious to everyone around us. By the time the night ended, I was sure I wanted to see her again. Things moved quickly, but it all felt so natural. We were in love, or at least, that's what I thought. Within a year, we moved in together. Finding our first apartment was an exciting adventure, a step toward building our future. We talked endlessly about the life we wanted, the house we'd buy, the places we'd visit, and the family we'd eventually have. Everything felt perfect. When I proposed 1.5 years into our relationship, I didn't hesitate. She said yes, and for a while, everything really was perfect. Planning the wedding was stressful, as I suppose it always is, but Lauren seemed to thrive on the chaos. She was meticulous, determined to make the day flawless in every way. At first, I admired her dedication and let her take charge. I trusted her vision. After all, this was our day, and I wanted her to be happy. But cracks began to show as the planning progressed. Lauren's focus shifted from our relationship to the spectacle of the wedding. She insisted on extravagant choices: a floral designer flown in from New York, imported linens, and a towering, custom-made cake that looked like a modern sculpture. These were things I'd never thought about or considered necessary. I had imagined an intimate celebration that reflected who we were as a couple, but her plan seemed more about appearances. What would impress our guests and make the wedding unforgettable? Every decision seemed to pull us further from the simple, personal day I had envisioned, but I kept quiet, telling myself these details didn't matter as long as we ended up married. I thought compromise was what love was all about. Then one night, just a month before the wedding, everything fell apart. We were sitting in the living room, exhausted from dealing with last-minute details, like the seating chart and the rehearsal dinner plans. Lauren, however, seemed full of energy, her focus sharper than ever. She brought up the rehearsal dinner, wanting it to be a formal, black-tie event. Then, casually, she dropped a bombshell. "I've been thinking," she said, her tone light, as if she were commenting on the weather. "I don't think your family should come to the wedding." I froze, staring at her, convinced I must have misheard. My family had been nothing but kind to Lauren. They adored her, welcomed her into our lives with open arms, and supported our relationship every step of the way. The idea that she didn't want them at the wedding was incomprehensible. Seeing my confusion, she continued. "It's not that I don't like them," she said, though her dismissive tone didn't match her words. "It's just that they don't fit the image I'm going for." Her explanation hit me like a tidal wave. She went on to describe how she wanted the wedding to be perfect, and in her mind that perfection didn't include my family. She mentioned their modest style, their straightforward personalities, and how she thought they might give the wrong impression to the high-end crowd she had in mind for the event. I couldn't fathom what I was hearing. My family, the ones who had raised me, supported me, and stood by me through every challenge, were being cast aside because they didn't align with her aesthetic vision for the day. It wasn't just insulting, it was soul-crushing. For years, I had brushed off the warning signs, convincing myself they were mere quirks or temporary stresses. But this was different. This was something I couldn't turn a blind eye to. Her demand exposed a side of her that I had failed to see, a side that valued appearances over people, vanity over values. It wasn't about the wedding anymore. It was about who she really was and who I had become by tolerating it. That night, I made the toughest decision of my life. I told Lauren I couldn't go through with the wedding. Her reaction was a whirlwind of shock, anger, and desperation, but I stood firm. I couldn't build a future with someone who saw my family as disposable. Breaking off the engagement wasn't easy. The aftermath was messy and painful, but in hindsight, I know it was the right choice. It wasn't just about her unreasonable demand. It was about the deeper truths that forced me to confront. I had been living in a fantasy, ignoring the parts of our relationship that didn't feel right. Ending things was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it freed me from a lifetime of compromises I wasn't willing to make. I never imagined I'd find myself questioning my decision to marry someone I loved. But that moment came, and it changed everything. We were sitting in our living room, finalizing the wedding details when she casually dropped a bombshell. "I don't like them," she said, her voice calm and soothing as though she was making a trivial observation. "Your family, they don't really fit with the vibe I'm going for." At first, I couldn't grasp the meaning. My family had always been a huge part of my life. They had loved me unconditionally, supported me through thick and thin, and were thrilled about the wedding. But as she continued, the message became painfully clear. She didn't think my family fit her image. "Your mom can be a little overbearing," she said. "And your dad, well, he's nice, but he's not exactly polished. I just don't think they'd add to the atmosphere." My heart sank. The weight of her words hit me like a heavy fog. She didn't want my family at our wedding. The family that had always been there for me had been reduced to an inconvenience, something to hide in order to maintain the image she was chasing. I sat there in stunned silence, my mind racing. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be the woman I was about to marry. How could she say something so shallow, so heartless? How could she reduce the people I loved to a vibe that didn't suit her? Yet as she spoke, it was clear she was serious. This was just another decision for her, a choice for the perfect day. She truly believed I would go along with it, that I would put her vision above my own family. I tried reasoning with her, explaining how hurtful her request was, how devastated my family would be if excluded from the wedding. But she didn't seem to understand, or worse, didn't care. She insisted it was for the best. Her solution? A smaller, more intimate ceremony with only the people who really mattered, her high society friends and colleagues. It was as if my family's feelings, their excitement, their love for me, didn't matter at all. That was when I realized I couldn't go through with it. It wasn't about the wedding anymore. This was about the kind of person she was, the kind of person I would be spending my life with. She had made it so clear that she valued appearances more than people. She was willing to hurt the people I loved, discard them for the sake of her own vanity. I couldn't marry someone like that. It was a decision I agonized over for days, but in the end, I knew what had to be done. I ended the engagement. It wasn't easy. She was furious, accusing me of overreacting and ruining everything. She couldn't or wouldn't understand how deeply her demand had hurt me, how much it revealed about her priorities and values. But I stood my ground. I knew that staying with her would mean sacrificing part of myself, a part of my soul. I couldn't do that. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Telling my family, my friends, and everyone else who had been so excited about the wedding why it wasn't happening was humiliating and painful. There were moments when I doubted myself, wondering if I had made the right decision. But every time I thought about her demand, I was reminded why I had to walk away. Months have passed, and I'm still healing. There are days when I think about what could have been, about the life we might have built together. But then I remember her words, and I'm reminded of the truth. I deserve someone who loves me for who I am, someone who values the people I care about, and wants to build a life based on love and respect, not appearances and status. Looking back, I can see how blind I was to the warning signs, how much I had ignored in the name of love. But I'm grateful I saw the truth before it was too late. Breaking off the engagement was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the best decision I've ever made.